history has been recognized and celebrated annually in the United States since 1926, much to the credit of Dr. Carter G. Woodson. The University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff is proud to present this Black History program in collaboration with the Pine Bluff Arsenal, a United States Army installation located in Jefferson County since 1941. These student leaders may one day become the next Army Major General, like our outstanding speaker this morning. I always smile whenever Dr. Hazel Linton speaks on program, because I know she will share inspired words that will take us to a new horizon. She will be followed by a selection by the Yard Voices of Praise, a student organization that not only is a showcase of UAPB talent, but is also an example of current Black history. They are excellence to be emulated. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Hazel Linton, followed by the fabulous Yard Voices of Praise.
Let us pray. Dear Father, we come to you today to invoke blessings on all who are assembled in this place. As we spend this time honoring the memories and heritage of those individuals who diligently labored, Father, many times under adverse circumstances for the betterment of our people and for the betterment of mankind. Help us to be mindful that all of us do not achieve equality. If all of us do not achieve equality, then none of us will achieve it. We applaud those who boldly labored for justice, sometimes at the cost of their own lives. We thank you for allowing us to assemble here this day and ask a special blessing on our speaker. We also ask a special blessing upon our chancellor, the other administrators, faculty, staff, and students at this university. We ask also for our speaker to inspire us, Lord, with the words of wisdom that you have instilled in him. We request, Father, that you transform us and make us into what you would have us to be. Help us to remember that we are all your children, and help us to tirelessly labor together with you in order that we may achieve the peace that you left here for us. Help us, Father, finally, to fulfill the purpose for which you placed us here on this earth. Instill and strengthen in us the respect for human dignity for all mankind. This we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
UAPB welcomed Dr. Lawrence B. Alexander as its new chancellor last summer, and he has already proven himself to be a personable leader who is also a shaker and a mover. We will hear next from Dr. Alexander, who will be followed by UAPB's exemplary jazz ensemble, directed by the fabulous Mr. Darrell Evans.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to our Black History Month program here at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. It is with great pleasure that I extend to you the sincerest gratitude to all of you who have taken time out of your busy schedules to be here today. We would also like to specially recognize all of our elected officials and military dignitaries and guests, as well as our community supporters. We're also especially grateful for our friend, Colonel David Musgrave, who is the commander of the Pine Bluff Arsenal, who reached out to us and started this collaboration that led to this effort today. Thank you, Colonel Musgrave. As a historically Black university filled with a rich history, it is important that we pay tribute and give honor to those who have sacrificed their lives and paved the way and had the courage to make valuable contributions to our university, our community, our state, and our nation. We recognize individuals such as Joseph Carter Corbin, who opened the doors of this very institution, then known as Branch Normal College, to provide a quality education and prepare teachers for then knowledge-craved, newly freed slaves and their descendants. To Wiley A. Branton, an alumnus and civil rights attorney who made his mark by contributing to the integration of the University of Arkansas School of Law. And to people like Major General Aundre Piggee, a distinguished alumni and military dignitary who will honor us today by delivering the keynote address. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who dedicated himself to the principles of nonviolence and made sure that the equality and justice was given to all. And our current President of the United States, Barack Obama, who serves as the first African American president and devotes his life to the progression of this country. You see, it is imperative that we recognize our past and become knowledgeable about where we've been to understand the path we're on to making a better future. Again, we appreciate all of you for taking time out of your schedule to come today. We, on this delightful occasion, and we hope that you have a very pleasant and enjoyable experience. Thank you.
This morning, the UAPB Jazz Ensemble will perform for you Summertime. Summertime, if you guys may be familiar with it, was an opera that featured an all-black cast. It was one of the first programs of that genre that featured an all-black cast. We're going to bring Miss Dunk to the stage. Miss Dunk is a senior from Dallas, Texas. And in the tradition of jazz vocalists, Billie Holiday, Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, and others, we give you Miss Felicia Dunk. This is George Gershwin's Summertime. And it also features Mr. Jose Acani, sophomore, on alto saxophone. This is Summertime. We hope you enjoy it.
Please give our UAPB ladies another round. And also for the UAPB Jazz Ensemble, please. I find much pleasure in introducing CM Commander of the Pine Bluff Arsenal, Colonel David L. Musgrave, who will present our special featured guest for today's program. Colonel Musgrave.
Chancellor Alexander, thank you for allowing me to introduce the guest speaker for today's Black History Month ceremony. Today, UAPB has the distinct honor and privilege of having one of its distinguished alum as this year's guest speaker. Major General Piggee is a native of Stamps, Arkansas. He commissioned into the United States Army in 1981, right here at UAPB, where he graduated as a distinguished military graduate with a Bachelor of Science degree in biology. He has a Master's of Science degree in Material Acquisition Management from Florida Institute of Technology and a Master's degree in Military Strategy from the Army War College. I know all of you have a copy of his bio, so I would like to not read it, but highlight a couple of things from a soldier's perspective. First off, he is one of the Army's most senior leaders and a proven decorated combat veteran. To sum up his role as a leader, he has led some of the largest organizations that can be led by an Army officer. In his last command, the 21st Theater Sustainment Command, he had the responsibility of logistically supporting the entire European and African theaters of operation to employ warfighting functions into the unified operations, deploying ready forces to execute theater openings, conducted theater distribution and sustainment, and supported the U.S. Army Europe's theater security cooperation efforts to strengthen allies and build partner capacity. In his current assignment, he serves as the Director of Logistics and Engineering for the United States Central Command, where he is responsible for planning, synchronizing, and controlling the efforts of the Joint Logistics and Engineering Enterprise in support of U.S. CENTCOM's missions throughout Southwest Asia, Central Asian states, and the entire U.S. CENTCOM area of responsibility. To provide a visual of his complex responsibilities, he supports efforts in the areas that encompasses Afghanistan, Bahrain, Egypt, Iraq, Iran, Jordan, Kazakhstan, Kuwait, Kazakhstan, Lebanon, Oman, Pakistan, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, United Arab Emirates, Uzbekistan, and Yemen. I named all of these areas to depict the complexity of his responsibilities. As we all know, these are areas of major concern for the U.S. national security. His military decorations includes the Distinguished Service Medal, the Defense Superior Service Medal, and the Bronze Star, among other awards. He is married to his lovely bride, Ms. Cassie Marie, who is here accompanying him today. And ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Major General Aundre Piggee.
Thank you so much. Well, it's no place like home. There's no place like coming home, and I really appreciate today's invitation. But as I sit here and listen to the excellent ensembles that have presided today, I'm humbled to be a part of such a distinguished institution after all these years. I think my pride grows stronger every year, and I really appreciate the opportunity to come home. Let me start out by saying I thank the ROTC detachment for their wonderful presentation as always. The voices of praise were magnificent. To the jazz ensemble, my wife and I just 2 weeks ago, for the first time, went to the musical, the Porgy and Bess, where "Summertime" was the first song that they sang. Not as good as you sang it today. Extremely well done. And I'd like to point out that one thing that's consistent, Chancellor Alexander, with the UAPB, we have always done an excellent job of selecting Miss UAPB. When I spoke with her this morning, the first thing that caught my attention was her extreme intelligence, coupled by her equally amazing beauty. Extremely well done. To Chancellor and Mrs. Alexander, David, I really appreciate the opportunity to meet you all last night. We are very fortunate to have such a distinguished leader with a great vision for this institution, and I have no doubt that this institution is in great hands as it moves forward, and we expect bigger and better things in the future from the Alexanders and Chancellor. Thank you very much. Colonel Musgrave and his lovely wife, Anita, again, thank you for this invitation and inviting us into your home last night. This entire community, I think, of Pine Bluff is better because of people like you and the leadership that the two of you have displayed. So thank you very much for that leadership. To the faculty and students of my alumni, Arkansas Pine Bluff, thank you for joining us today. To the outstanding members and employees of the Pine Bluff Arsenal who co-sponsored today's event, thank you so much. And all of our distinguished guests, former Mayor Reeder and all the others that I had an opportunity to meet today, thank you for coming to today's ceremony. I am indeed honored to participate as your guest speaker as we celebrate the observance of Black History Month. I also like to recognize, I'd be remiss, every time I come back, I'm supported by my fraternity, Brothers of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. Thank you all for joining us today. I really appreciate that. And as always, in the military, and it's not always the case, but I have the most supportive family that a soldier could ask for. They have supported me throughout every major event in my military career, and today they're right here with me. My mother is here, my sister, my brother, and his lovely bride and their daughter. And thank you so much for joining me today. I could not have been successful, accomplish the things that I do without your tremendous support. So I thank you all for coming. I once brave introduce my lovely bride, and I'm very thankful. She has been my #1 stalwart fan for the majority of my military career, and she helps keep me grounded. I recall when I first got promoted to general officer, we were stationed in South Korea in the wintertime, and it was extremely cold, and I had an opportunity, Chancellor Alexander, to attend a conference in Hawaii. And I would tell you that I was born at night, but not last night, and I knew that if I was a smart man, I would take my wife with me on this trip to Hawaii in the middle of the winter from South Korea. So we took off and we went to Korea, and I'd been there a few times before, and we had this wonderful reservation in a 5-star hotel on the Waikiki Beach, and we arrived at the hotel, and I was excited about the opportunity to hurry and change clothes and get to the beach. And so as I started to check in, I noticed out of my eye that my wife had developed a conversation with the gentleman. I didn't think much about it. I continued to finish checking in and went to the elevator, and I noticed that this gentleman joined us. Well, it turns out that this guy was the bellman. So I didn't think much about it. We got in the elevator, we went up to the room, and I'm excited. All I can think about is going to the barefoot beach and drinking my first Mai Tai and enjoying this warm weather when it's been cold for 60+ days, and that was my whole purpose. And my wife continued this long, drawn-out conversation with this guy. And she just could not get the hint. I went out, pulled out my swim trunks. I said, hey, look, we got to go. And she went on and continued this conversation. And finally, I guess the conversation ended, and I was beginning to get a little frustrated. I think she detected that. She gave him a big tip, and off he went. And then I'm saying, man, I said, who is this guy? She said, oh, that was That was an old boyfriend from when my father was stationed in Hawaii. So, you know, I'm a brand new general officer. I'm kind of feeling myself, you know. And I said, you know what? If you had married him, you'd be married to a bellman. And my wife, as smart as she is, she looked me dead in my eye and grabbed my hand. She said, no, you got it twisted. If I'd married him, he'd be wearing the stars and you would be carrying them. That's just an example of how supportive she's been and kept me grounded over the years, and I love her to death. And thank you for joining me today, sweetheart. You know, my father was a distinguished graduate of this institution back in 1951. He was a principal, and he was a most sought-after speaker throughout the entire state of Arkansas. And we grew up in the southwest portion of the state near Texarkana. Stamps is where I finished high school. And he spoke all over the state of Arkansas, Texas, and Louisiana. And he is my role model. He's the person that I most want to be like in life. And he was a terrific speaker. He was motivational, he was dynamic, he was eloquent. On occasion he could be a little long-winded, but he was the speaker, the person, the role model that I always wanted to be. I patterned my life, even to this very day, to strive to be the man that he was, as his example. And a few years ago, I was invited to come speak at the convocation here in this very hall, and I thought I gave a pretty good presentation. And my brother was with me that day, that's here, and he said, man, you reminded me of Daddy today. And you know, that was the highest compliment I think I could get. So I wanted to get a little bit more. I said, well, what? Was I dynamic? Was I eloquent? What was it that reminded you of our father? He said, no, man, none of that. You were just long-winded. So Adam Clayton Powell, a champion civil rights reformer, was once asked about his thoughts of before he made speeches, and this is what he said. He says, I try to make my comments like a woman's skirt, long enough to be respectable, but short enough to be interesting. So that's my goal today, to be interesting, but respectable. Every year in February, we attempt to recognize and appreciate Black history. It's a worthwhile endeavor, for the contributions of African Americans to this great nation has been both numerous and significant. Even as we continue a fight of the past 13 years against terrorism to regain our financial footing, coming out of the Great Depression, the biggest recession we've had since the Great Depression, and cope with many other significant issues of our day, the need to confront our racial past and our need to understand the history and the impact of African American people in this country endures. One cannot appreciate America and American history without the understanding the historical experience and the context of Black people in this nation. Our forefathers gave us the example to follow today, to get over persecution, to get over treated as a second-class citizen, to get over no right to vote, injustice, and unfair treatment. We're here today to celebrate African American history and to celebrate the significant accomplishments and remember the significant challenges they had to endure and overcome, that we might be able to live in a country where our president is an African American. We must fully appreciate the fact that what we can achieve in life is only limited by the extent of our dreams. Their dream was to influence our destiny, and ours should be to pay it forward to make America better for our grandkids. When our parents and grandparents marched in Selma, Alabama, when they conducted sit-ins throughout the restaurants throughout the South, and when Dr. King organized and orchestrated that historical March on Washington and delivered his historic I Have a Dream speech, they made America better for us. It would have been easy for Dr. King and others to say, mission accomplished. We've raised the level of consciousness in America and deemed themselves successful. But no, we must continue their work to refine and recommit and reaffirm ourselves to Dr. King's dream, for we have yet to reach our full potential. You know, if I could share a little bit of my personal story. You know, in the Army, general officers tend to be that mystical figure that kind of like the chancellor, just kind of glides above water and never touch the ground. We tend to think that their path was laid out for them on a golden road, and the normal person cannot achieve that. Well, I want to debunk that myth today. When I came and applied to colleges throughout Arkansas and others that I wanted to come, I was not accepted by any university. In fact, the only university that accepted me on a probationary basis was UAPB, because my SAT or my ACT score was not that good. Now, I was a good student. I had a good GPA, but because I did not score well enough on that ACT, UAPB gave me the opportunity to give me that probationary acceptance. Put me on my road to success. Just one example. Another. 4 years I completed, graduated here at UAPB, got commissioned as a second lieutenant, and went off to my first assignment in Colorado Springs. Served 4 years and got promoted to a new captain, and it became my time to what we call PCS, a permanent change of station. I moved to another location. And my assignment officer who managed my career came down and visited and looked at my file, and I was waiting to see where I was going to be competitive to go off, and she looked at my file and looked at me, and I could tell that she was becoming a little bit distressed, and I said, well, what's going on? She said, well, looking at these records, and in the Army, every year and on an annual basis, you get what we call an efficiency report, and that's a documentation of your performance over the past year. And my bosses and mentors have been telling me that I was doing a good job and that they had documented the job that I was doing. But in fact, what this assignment officer told me is that, I'm surprised you got selected for captain with these write-ups, with this documentation. I said, what do you mean? She said, on the front we had, in that time we had a 1 through 5, and they graded you, 1 was the best and 5 being the worst. And I had mostly 1s, but I had a couple of 2s. And I thought that was the standard. And I had been told by my bosses that, hey, 2s were good. And 1s and 2s, that's pretty good. Well, 2s was something below average in the Army. And what they had documented me and telling me that I had some challenges, and they would question my potential to be a military officer. I transitioned, I went on, and I worked hard, and I learned from that. And years later, I ended up at a premier school at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, a year-long program that selected, I thought, the best and the brightest, and they did. And when I was wrapping up, it was time to move again, and I got a call from my future boss down at Fort Hood, Texas, and told me you got selected for this premier position, the job that every major wants in the Army. It's called Battalion Executive Officer, but it's a premier job that launches you to that next level. And I was very excited about that. So the day before I traveled from Kansas to Texas, I called this guy and said, hey, I'm coming. Where do I check in? Who do I meet? And he said, oh, you didn't get the word? We changed that. I selected somebody else. You got to go report to so-and-so, and they'll tell you what you're going to do. So I went there, and they told me that I had to wait a year. They selected this other guy, and they made me work. I was a major. Made me work for another major that had been fired from his previous 2 jobs. Because he was senior to me, I had to work for him. And this guy was retiring soon. So I diligently worked hard, worked for that year, thinking that I was going to get that job that I wanted. Time came for me to take that job. They called me in and said, well, the general selected somebody else. And you're not going to get that job, you're going to get another job. But you just wait another year and they'll give you that job. So I waited another year, the 3rd year, and they offered me the job. I gave you the example how I started to feel myself. The ego crept in. I said, I wasn't good enough the first year, I wasn't good enough the second year, the heck with you guys, I don't want that job now. So I decided to move on. So, ended up in Washington, D.C., and I was selected for Lieutenant Colonel. Great, thought I was tracking. And then the next big hurdle is Battalion Command, a premier command at the 05 Lieutenant Colonel level. And the board met, and it normally takes 3 to 4 months before you get the results of that board. And a friend of mine worked over at the Department of Army Personnel And she gave me a call and she said, Aundre, I got bad news for you. And the Army was selecting 75 individuals that year for that prestigious position. And then they draw the line. And I was number 76. Was not selected. But bad news was I couldn't talk to anybody about it because this was 4 months before the book was released. And the only person I could depend on was my lovely bride. And we talked about it and she consoled me. And I've had these multiple hurdles throughout the course of my career. Now, due to God's grace, some person had to fall out and I became above the line. I got that job and I'm here to this very day. But my point is, we're going to have challenges in life. It would be easy for us to see others as being better than us. Limitations others put on our lives. I could have easily given in to others' perceptions at every opportunity throughout my career to end my ability to succeed in the military. But I was determined to get over those perceptions, to get over their views of my ability, and to strive to meet my full potential. And I decided that I would determine my destiny. I could have made excuses, fell into that self-pity trap. Sometimes we think, if I had had his life, if I had their talents, if I was born into that family, then I might be something great. Don't compare your situation to somebody else's. You're not running their race. It may seem like they have more advantages, but we have to shake it off. Our attitude should be, nobody owes me anything. I'm going to determine my own destiny. I'm asking you today to get over anything that's holding you back. A bad attitude, what somebody did to you, a mistake you made. Don't be pitiful when you can be powerful. And yes, we all go through tough times, but we're not supposed to stay there. If our grandparents had taken this attitude, we would not be here today. Often in life, we think we have a storm brewing in our life, but it's really just a contrary wind. Sometimes in life, we blow the storms up to be hurricanes, typhoons, or tornadoes in this part of the country. We allow little problems to consume our lives, steal our joy, and leave us hopeless. But we need to remember that sometimes we're not going through a storm. It's simply a contrary wind. Every difficulty is not a disaster. Every shortcoming is not a defeat. Every mistake is not a failure. And every delay is not a denial. It's not a storm. It's just a contrary wind. It reminds me about a grandfather I heard. He took a nap one afternoon in his family room and his grandkids decided to play a trick on him. So they went to the refrigerator and got some old cheese that had been there way too long. Really bad smelling, just potent smell. And while he was sleeping, they went over and snuck and put some on his mustache. And then they went over in the corner to watch him. Well, in a couple of minutes, his nose began to twitch. Finally woke up and said, man, it really stinks in here. So he left the room, went to the kitchen, trying to get some relief, sniff here, sniff there, same thing. It really stinks in this room. So he decided to go outside, frustrated to get a breath of fresh air, took a deep breath. He said, man, this whole world stinks. So if the whole world stinks to you, might I suggest that you look inside. Maybe there's some adjustment that you need to make. I read about another young man that his dream was to play professional baseball. And all through junior high and high school, he was by far the best player in the league. But one day, like most of us, we lived in a rural area, worked on a farm, and he had a farming accident. And in that accident, he lost all of his forefinger and most of his middle finger. Just so happened that happened to be the hand that he threw the baseball with. And it looked like his career was over before it even got started. But this young man didn't sit around in self-pity and nursing his wounds. He learned how to throw the ball without those two fingers. If you know much about baseball, you know, it's hard to throw a ball without these two fingers. So one day, he was at practice and coach was standing behind him. He normally played third base, and the coach was standing behind him, and when he threw the ball to first base, the ball started making all kind of movements, and it was even hard for the first baseman to catch the ball. And the coach had an idea, said, hey, let's try something. So he moved him from third base and put him on the pitcher's mound. And Mordecai Brown went on to be one of the greatest professional baseball players in the early 1900s. He realized his dream in spite of his setbacks. Our forefathers knew that we are not defined by our physical or environmental limitations, but by our potential. By their example, our mission in life is to ensure that we are not bound by where we come from, but empowered by what we can become. My parents taught me not to measure myself against my peers or what society might deem as success. They encouraged me to measure my success against my potential. Only then will I be able to reach my destiny. Another quote I like is from W.E.B. Du Bois, another great African-American leader, a distinguished historian and civil rights activist, and he put it this way. He said, the most important thing to remember is this: to be ready at any moment to give up who you are for who you might become. Now I am asking you today to do your part, to get over anything that's holding you back. Get over what they said about you, get over the challenges. They don't determine your destiny. Get over what didn't work out. Get over the mistake you made. Get over the disappointment. It may have been a setback, but stay positive. Continue to work hard and get ready for your comeback. As I said earlier, our attitude should be, nobody owes me anything. Booker T. Washington was asked his thoughts about success, and he said, and I quote, success is to be measured not so much by the position that one reached in life as the obstacles he has overcome while trying to succeed. I think that's a powerful statement. If we will learn this simple principle to get over it, then I believe no disappointment, no bad break, no injustice is going to keep us, as we celebrate Black History Month, from our destiny. As I end, I was up again, a TDY trip to Washington, D.C., and my wife asked me to go to one of the hospitals to get a copy of an MRI. And while they were making a copy of that, I was walking the hallways, and I saw this poster. And I reflected on it, and it just spoke to me, and it resonated with me, and I want to share that with you. And it's called The Essence of Destiny. And it goes like this. It says, watch your thoughts, for they become words. Choose your words, for they become actions. Understand your actions, for they become your habits. Study your habits, for they become your character. And develop your character, for it becomes your destiny. So thank you, UAPB. Thank you, Pine Bluff Arsenal. It's an honor for me to come back and be home, and may God continue to bless you all. Thank you.
I believe we witnessed Black history today. Let's give another round of applause. I'd like to bring back to the podium Chancellor Alexander for a special presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Wiley. For this presentation, I'd like to ask Colonel Musgrave of the Pine Bluff Arsenal. Would you come forward, please? And I'm going to ask General Piggee to come forward, please. Major General. We'd like to make this presentation to you on behalf of the Pine Bluff Arsenal and the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. We'd like to give this to you as our thanks for coming out today and for sharing with us those inspiring, challenging, and really forceful comments for our future students. Thank you.
And let's bring back another favorite, Yard, Voices of Praise. also like to hear again from our fabulous UAPB Jazz Ensemble.
We celebrate jazz every day with the likes of guys like Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Charlie Parker. This tune that we're going to do is a Thelonious Monk tune, and this is called Straight No Chaser, and it features Mr. Lemanuel Williams, senior music education major from Dallas, Texas, on trumpet. This is Straight No Chaser.
Wow, it's been a fabulous program, hasn't it? Yes. Yes, yes. And we want to give a special thank you to you as audience members. You all have been exemplary. Thank you. Give yourselves a hand.